Hey there guys, how are you? So let's talk about the new movie American Sniper, directed by Clint Eastwood and starring Bradley Cooper. Yeah, got my lawn. That's my Clint Eastwood impression. I'm gonna put my gun down now. Alright, so let's talk about American Sniper. Now, when this movie originally came out a few weeks ago, there was a lot of hype surrounding this movie. A little too much hype, and I wanted to go into this movie feeling fresh and not tainted by all that hype. Yeah, you get that shit off me. It left a stain! Now, like I said a few seconds ago, this movie's directed by the original badass, Clint Eastwood. And when it comes to Clint Eastwood being a director, I think he's a really good director. He's definitely got talent, he's made some really good movies, but lately, for like the last 5 or 6 years, he's made a lot of mediocre movies where I'm just like, yeah, I'm not gonna remember that in 5 minutes. Now let me quickly sum up the plot to this movie so we can dive into the good stuff. Now what is this movie all about? Well, it's a biopic about Navy SEAL sniper Chris Kyle, who is the deadliest marksman in US history. Now the film American Sniper is based on an autobiography written by Chris Kyle, the sniper that this movie features. And when you compare the book to the movie, there are going to be some differences. Movies to books are like apples and oranges. They both taste good, but they're very different. And the point I'm trying to make to you is when I finally sat down to watch this movie, I treated it just like a movie, an original story. I didn't base it on the real life events or the real life personality of Chris Kyle, the sniper. That way I could enjoy the movie for what it was and not compare it to something else. And for me as a viewer, when I'm watching a movie like American Sniper and I see these intense, brutal things going down in the movie, in the back of my mind, I'm reminded, whoa, this is based on true life events. Things like this really did happen, and it adds an extra element to the movie. And I really enjoy things like that because it makes the movie more exciting for me. But when things happen in the movie that didn't happen in reality, I don't hold it against the movie. I'm just like, yeah, this is a movie. So I hope some of that made sense. Now let's really dive into this movie. The movie stars Bradley Cooper, who I'm a huge fan of Bradley Cooper. I think he's a really good actor, and he's kind of like, yeah, he's like the go-to good actor guy nowadays, and that's my critical standpoint. Bradley Cooper is the go-to good actor guy nowadays. But you could really tell that he was dedicated to play this character of Chris Kyle. I mean, say what you will about Chris Kyle, the real-life personality behind this guy did save lives. He was a badass sniper, and he was courageous. I mean, he does things in this movie that I watch, and I try to put myself in that position, and I'm like, no, I would piss myself and run away screaming like a little girl. And I would say overall, from a personality standpoint and a physical standpoint, Bradley Cooper really brought Chris Kyle to the big screen, and, you know, he really portrayed the character very well. You know, I read that he actually ate 8,000 calories a day to bulk up for the role, and he did a lot of training, so I appreciate things like that. I like when actors go the extra mile to really immerse themselves into the character that they're playing. Now, as far as the character of Chris Kyle goes in this film, and I'm talking about the film version of Chris Kyle because the real life version, I never met the guy. I know a few things about him. I know he has some very strong opinions a lot of people might not agree with, but we're not talking about that version. We're talking about the Clint Eastwood movie version of Chris Kyle. And throughout this film, his character's a little bit bland. There's not a lot to grasp onto, and you don't really relate to him. Or at least I didn't. I mean, I liked the guy overall. He's very heroic. You could tell that he cared about his family. He went on 4 tours to Iraq, which is just mind-blowing that someone would have the balls to keep going back to a place that's so brutal and dangerous. Now let's talk about one of my biggest fears when it comes to war films: propaganda. Yeah, it's a very fine line. Do you want this to be a movie that's showcasing, hey kids, join the Navy SEALs, it's fun and cool, go America, patriotism, it's great. And this has always been my opinion, but when it comes to war or war films, no one really wins. I mean, sure, someone's declared a victor, but a lot of people die, tons of bad shit happens, and there's casualties on both sides. And going into this movie, that was one of my biggest fears. I wanted a movie that really showcased the reality and the harsh truths that sometimes people have to make in war, in battle. And throughout the film of American Sniper, does it feel like a propaganda piece? Well, yes and no at times. And here's why I'm okay with that. Because this is based on an autobiography. This is from one man's point of view. And this man was all about serving his country, and this is his mindset and his opinions. And this movie is showcasing that. So if that was this man's opinion, a very patriotic guy who loved his country almost no matter what, well, you're getting that. And if that viewpoint comes across as propaganda, well, I would say the movie did its job in one way or another, because this movie does leave some things open to showcase that not everything is as perfect as it seems to be when you see it on the news. Bad shit does happen, people make mistakes. Now let's talk about one of my favorite aspects of this movie, and that is the intensity. If anything else in this movie fails, the thing that it does perfectly is it makes the viewer feel like you're on the edge of your seat, because every time that sniper Chris Kyle has a sniper rifle and he has to make that life-altering decision, should I take them out? Should I do it? Should I save somebody's life today by taking someone else's? Are they innocent? Do they want to blow someone up, or is it just some innocent child? And that's what I loved about this movie, the intensity that this movie showcases. Because like I said a few minutes ago earlier on in this video, Put yourself in this guy's situation. Your finger's on the trigger, you're looking down the scope, and you have to make a decision. And scenes like that do ensue throughout the entire movie, but every time you see it, it doesn't feel like it's the rehash of the scene that came before. Every time it feels like a new situation, a new scenario, and you get the same intense feeling that just tingles down your spine. And the other great thing about this film is the action sequences. When they're having gunfights and battles and things are getting intense, things are exploding, they're running down the alleyways of Iraq. It just really, you feel like you're there in the action, and it's scary. And I feel like if this film was marketed more as an action war movie rather than like this character drama film, I think a lot of the negative criticism that the movie's getting would go away. And by the way, the biggest fail of the movie is the prop baby. Yeah, come on, you guys could have just put a real baby in his hand for a few minutes. I mean, it went from moving to looking like he was holding a cinder block. Now let me very quickly talk about Bradley Cooper's co-star, Sienna Miller, who plays his wife in this film, and I think she did a really good job. I bought her as this war wife. She's very tattered, torn, and worn down, and she just wanted her husband to come back home. And also there's some other side characters in the film, but you don't really get to know them, you don't really care about them. And in all honesty, I was okay with that because this movie wasn't about them, it was about this one man. Now it's time for my final flick thoughts on the movie American Sniper. As far as all the action sequences go and all the sniping scenes, all great, all perfectly well done, executed, looked great. The cinematography, the directing, Clint Eastwood did a great job on this movie. I say it's his best movie since Gran Torino. Had no problems. I think that's what made this movie enjoyable and what I liked about the movie the most. But as far as all the character moments that tried a little too hard to feel like Oscar bait, or at least in my opinion, they kind of fell flat. Were they bad? No, but they could have been improved upon. But that prop baby, man, it takes you right out of the movie. Anyway, I'm going to give the movie American Sniper a B+. Alright guys, so that's my take on American Sniper. Overall, I really enjoyed the movie. It was actually better than I expected it to be. So here's my question to you guys, and let me know down below. What is your favorite war movie of all time? If I had to pick one, I would say Saving Private Ryan. It's still my favorite of all time. And also, really quick before I go, I wanted to let you guys know about another movie review I just put up. Yeah, it's for one of my favorite movies of all time, American Psycho. Things get dark, they get twisted, and it's a very weird review, and I walk around my house doing Patrick Bateman quotes. So guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.